they been cramping my style all week. Craving chocolate treats, checking pants, checking seeds, sipping herbal tea, and fight for menstrual equity. Jeez, man, I kick cramps ass. 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 You're now tuned in to the Kick Cramps Ass podcast with your host, Brittany Walker, advocating for menstrual equity, period poverty, and womb wellness. New episodes on Menstruation Mondays.
Happy Menstruation Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Kick Cramps Ass podcast, where I'm your host, Brittany Walker. And we've made it to Season 2, Episode 24, Overcoming PCOS. All right, guys, it is Monday, September 2nd, 2024. So happy September. For this month, we have 3 awareness dates that we will be acknowledging throughout the remainder of this season. September is PCOS month, which is polycystic ovary syndrome. And then we have Yoga Awareness Month. And we also have Sexual Health Awareness Month. All right, guys. So we're so excited about these 3 factors and how they actually contribute or may impact your menstrual cycle journey. All right, guys. Now, we always like to kick off each episode with the I am power statement. I representing inspiration, A representing affirmations, and M representing manifestations. And the I am power statement for today is, I am embodying the grandeur of my menstrual cycle and will continue to dignify it. Ashe. And we also do a quote of the day, guys. So today's is, in dealing with those who are undergoing great suffering, if you feel burnout setting in, if you feel demoralized and exhausted, it is best for the sake of everyone to withdraw and restore yourself. The point is to have a long-term perspective, and that's by the Dalai Lama. So in other words, life longevity is everything. If your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual wellness components are being negatively impacted or hindered in some type of way, then that can ultimately impact your life longevity. All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick sip of our good old cramp elixir, and we're going to cut to a commercial break, and we'll be right back with you. Have you tried our bestseller, the Cramp Elixir? It's our herbal tea blend designed to reduce and eliminate menstrual cramps, PMS symptoms, and other uterine health issues that are hindering your day-to-day progress. Our elixir may decrease inflammation, reduce stress and anxiety, regulate blood flow, balance your mood, and it can kick cramps ass. It includes a variety of herbs including hibiscus, red raspberry leaf, calendula, motherwort, ashwagandha, plus more. Head over to kickcrampsass.org and grab yours today. Now, back to the show. Okay, guys, welcome back from that commercial break, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Now, overcoming PCOS. What exactly is polycystic ovary syndrome? All right. It is a hormonal disorder causing enlarged ovaries with small cysts on the outer edges. It is also a hormonal imbalance that occurs when your ovaries create excess hormones. And for those of you who don't know, your ovary is the organ that produces and releases eggs. So that is the organ that is thoroughly involved in your menstrual cycle process in releasing the eggs and shedding that uterine wall that we no longer need if we don't get pregnant month to month. All right, guys. Now, if you have PCOS, your ovaries produce usually high levels of hormones called androgens, and this causes your reproductive hormones to become imbalance. Now, we've talked about before how important it is to keep our hormones in balance because it will have a negative impact on your menstrual cycle journey, and it can lead to other uterine ailments. Now, as a result, people with PCOS often have irregular menstrual cycles, missed periods, and unpredictable ovulation, meaning that they don't know when they'll ovulate. They might suffer from infertility, and we'll get into that more in just a moment. Now, PCOS is the leading cause of infertility, like we just mentioned, in menstruators, and it can also cause the risk of other chronic conditions. Now, we said other uterine ailments, but you didn't even think about how it can affect other chronic conditions. And these include type 2 diabetes, gestational diabetes, which is when you're pregnant and you have diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, sleep apnea, and even stroke. So, guys, PCOS can be a determining factor in other issues that you're having. You might have been diagnosed with a chronic illness, and then you might suffer from PCOS and you might not even know it. So let's definitely get into like some stats and symptoms so we can give you some more knowledge on this uterine ailment. Now, the Lancet Regional Health in Europe in 2022 determined a stat regarding prevalence. Now, PCOS affects 5 to 18% of women in reproductive age globally, with an average prevalence of 276.4 cases per 100,000 people in Europe. So if we had a line or a big circle of 100,000 people, we're saying roughly 276 cases can be pulled from those 100,000 people. All right, guys. Now, if you want to condense that down some, just think about it. If you take 100,000 down to 1,000, then that will make those cases smaller. But still, even in every 1,000 people, you could still have roughly 2.76 people out of every 1,000 people that can have PCOS. All right. Now, according to the WHO, which is known as the World Health Organization, in 2023, they were wanting to give stats about undiagnosed cases. Now, up to 70% of menstruators with PCOS worldwide are undiagnosed. So there's 70% of individuals who actually have PCOS that are roaming the world globally that don't even realize that they have it. All right, guys, that's why it's important that we bring up this uterine ailment in this podcast episode in honor of PCOS Awareness Month. And then also, so you can see, am I experiencing some of these things? Do I have some of these symptoms? And that could be something for you to look into. You might even have had family members that have PCOS that didn't realize that they had it. And they were just like, oh, you get acne. I have ingrown hairs. I have excessive facial hair, and don't realize that that could be a symptom of PCOS. But we'll get into that more in just a moment. So back to these stats. Now, on the Fertility and Sterility website, Dr. Olumayawo M. Dio and their research team back in 2020 did some stats on race and ethnicity in regards to PCOS. Now, the prevalence of PCOS varies by race and ethnicity, ranging from 1.1% among Chinese women to 3.5% among South Asian women. All right, guys. Now, the Office of Women's Health in 2021 did some stats on ages. Now, most women are diagnosed with PCOS in their 20s and 30s. However, they even have a stat on risk factors. Now, the risk of PCOS may be higher if you are obese or have a mother, sister, or aunt who had PCOS. So let's take a pause here. We've talked about before genetically, a lot of chronic illnesses are associated with genetics. Like if somebody in your family had this gene, they have this certain cell, if they've already been diagnosed with this ailment, that you're more likely to have it as well. But we also want to be mindful that genetically, you cannot obtain an ailment genetically, and we have research to prove that. We actually have talked about that in past episodes through this book, Education Over Medication, that came from an actual licensed nutritionist, somebody that used to work for the Food and Drug Administration, somebody that is a pharmacist as well, that prove genetically you cannot pass on ailments. But what you can do is repeat the same habits, eat the same foods, practice the same routines, and have the same conditions that may also lead to that same ailment. So we want to be mindful of that, guys. So shout out to Dr. Bobby J. Price for that information. Now, the National Library of Medicine with Lorena Raskin and their research team back in 2022 had some stats on healthcare costs. Now, the cost of healthcare system for diagnosing and treating PCOS is approximately $4 billion annually. We're going to sit on that. $4 billion annually to do research, to diagnose, to treat individuals with PCOS. However, I have had clients that have had PCOS. I have colleagues who have treated clients who formerly had PCOS that no longer have it. So we want to get out of the habit of believing that if we are diagnosed with something that we're just stuck with that diagnosis for life. No, that is not the case. I am a firm believer and I am a representation of all the chronic illnesses that you can get rid of, that you can decrease, that you can prevent so that you don't have to deal with certain things. But it takes mindset shifting, researching and learning for your own, and making a lot of changes in your life that's going to be very valuable for you to have life longevity. All right, guys. Now, the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism with researcher Enrico Carmina. Now, this stat is regarding to pregnancy loss. And even though it was in 1999, I typically like to use research that was within the last 5 years. But I put this stat inside of this podcast for a reason, because 1999, guys, that was 25 years ago. That means that these are issues that researchers were finding almost 3 decades ago. We're closer to 3 decades than to 2 decades. So almost 30 years ago, this is information that has been found, and we're still trying to figure things out and work on it, which is baffling to me because, like I told you, I have had the opportunity to help individuals decrease and get rid of their PCOS. So let's get into it. The spontaneous abortion rate in PCOS is approximately 1/3 of all pregnancies, which is at least double the rate for normal women. So let's talk about it. So now that we have these laws against abortions, some individuals cannot even get abortions now because of the ailment of PCOS affecting their pregnancies. All right, guys. So just sit and think about how their right has been taken away from them and why it's important to give them back the right to have the ability to do abortions if they need to. All right, guys. And last stat that we have for today is from the Clinical Endocrinology News with Miriam E. Tucker. And this was from 2023, talking about lifespan. Women with PCOS have a shorter lifespan than women without PCOS. Listen to that. Women with PCOS have a shorter lifespan than those without it. So it's extremely important to pay attention to the information that we're giving to you guys and to attach yourself to organizations that advocate for PCOS, that are fighting to give you research and give you the knowledge that you need so you can combat this ailment. All right, guys. So we've talked about what is PCOS. We talked about statistics in regards to it. So let's talk about signs or symptoms on if you may have it, because again, there's 70% of people walking around globally that don't even realize that they have it. All right. So you may experience irregular periods. So PCOS can cause missed, irregular, or very light periods. So it could be a form of like amenorrhea, guys. This is because the ovaries do not regularly release eggs, meaning that they're not ovulating, meaning that you're missing that ovulation phase in the menstrual cycle phase. We've talked about out of those 4 phases, we have menstruation, we have follicular, we have luteal, we have ovulation. So if you're missing that ovulation period, that is hindering the body. All right, guys. Another symptom is excess androgen. And we mentioned that earlier when we were explaining what is PCOS. And what that does is PCOS causes high levels of male hormones, which are known as testosterone. And this can lead to physical signs like excess body hair or facial hair. So you might have really long hair in your armpits or your legs. You might notice that you start getting a lot of hair under your chin, on your chin, maybe a mustache may come into play. And it's crazy because before I started practicing a holistic lifestyle, I used to have a very heavy mustache and I used to have to get it waxed. And I could not understand for the life of me why it was getting thicker the older that I got. When I was in high school, it was super, super thin, and my hair on my face, under my lip, was like a very, very light brown color, so it would blend in with my skin. But once I got into my early 20s, it started turning like a black, like a very dark color, as in my hair, which the hair on my head, it might look black, but it's a really, really dark chocolate brown. And then it started getting closer to black. But as I got in my mid 20s and my late 20s, it would get thicker and thicker, and it would grow back thicker. And I know once you start waxing, that can cause your hair to grow back thicker and quicker as well. But it really was all the imbalance of hormones that I had in my body. And at that time, I still was having dysmenorrhea, which was heavy menstrual cramps, menorrhagia, which was heavy menstrual bleeding, really bad bloating, 14-day cycles. So I had a lot going on. But since I've gotten rid of all of those things, I don't even have like hair that grows in on my lip because I don't do any waxing, shaving, plucking. I don't touch any of the hair that's on my face, and I haven't done so since 2020. And so therefore, as you can see, you see no hair, but I literally have pictures where I had a full mustache, and that leads me to believe that maybe I was borderline PCOS, or maybe I was starting to suffer with that, because although I had a OBGYN diagnose me with ovarian cystitis, I have now learned that they don't even give that diagnosis no more. It's either you have PCOS or you have fibroids. So again, that just speaks volumes and takes me back to when I was 19, first suffering with these things. Now getting ready to turn 39 next month, a whole 20 years later, and just watching what all my body has gone through. It's pretty crazy to see that I might have been suffering from a very small case of PCOS. So things to be mindful of: if you have that facial hair under your chin, on the top of your lip, if it's growing anywhere on your face that you normally don't grow hair from. You'll see people that grow hair like out their cheeks, things of that sort, off the side of their face, things of that sort. I used to have one that grew out my chin, and it would just come really, really long. And it was a blonde hair, which is crazy because I don't have any blonde hair on my body. So you just want to pay attention to these type of symptoms. So let's talk about your ovaries. The ovaries can become enlarged, contain many fluid-filled follicles that surround the eggs, and that can lead to the cysts that start growing. All right, guys. We also want to pay attention to weight gain. PCOS can cause excessive weight gain, especially around the belly area. This is often referred to as an apple shape. You might hear it called stubborn belly fat. You might hear it called visceral fat, but it's the area directly under your belly button and directly above your vagina that just gets super, super heavy, super thick. It's really hard to lose that weight once you actually get it. And you can also be prone to obesity. And we want to be mindful of that because, you know, guys, obesity is the gateway drug to all chronic illnesses. So once you've been labeled or diagnosed as being an obese person, or morbidly obese or severely obese, you typically may have other chronic diseases or illnesses that you may be diagnosed with. So we want to be mindful of that. Again, that should also make you mindful of how important your diet and what you put in and on your body does for illnesses in your body and life longevity. Okay, now you might experience acne or oily skin. PCOS can cause severe acne, and this is while you're on your period, while you're not on your period. It has to do with the hormonal imbalances in the body. You might also have male pattern baldness. So you'll start to notice that men might start going bald right here at the top, or they might have like this part that's right in the back of their head right there that might start going bald even in their 20s or their 30s. And that has to do with the food that they're putting in their body and their hormonal levels in their body. So you may start experiencing the same thing with PCOS, and that can cause the baldness or the thinning of your hair. And then lastly, skin tags. So PCOS can cause small pieces of excess skin on the neck, on the armpit. You might even see patches on your legs and in areas that are undesirable. So you want to be mindful of these things. All right, guys. So I know that was a mouthful. So we're going to go ahead and cut to this quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with you. Now, navigating to our resource center, we want to give you guys access to all these complimentary resources that we have available for you. We have our blog, book suggestions, our menstrual blood chart, exercise moves to kick cramps ass. We have recipes. We have reports. We have research studies that helps to prove how holistic approaches assist with achieving wound wellness. We have wellness tips, wellness referrals, so business organizations and individuals that we would like to refer to you that are our strategic partners, wound terminology. Maybe there's some wound options that you're not aware of. This can help you out. And lastly, yoga moves to help you kick cramps ass. Feel free to take advantage of this complimentary resource. All right, guys, now back to the show. Welcome back from that commercial break, guys. We hope that you enjoyed it. So let's go ahead and keep going with this good old episode on how to overcome PCOS. Now, how does PCOS actually impact your period? Yes, it is a uterine ailment and a diagnosis that a menstruator can have, but let's talk about what that does for your period. Now, PCOS, again, is a hormonal imbalance that affects the ovaries, which are responsible for releasing eggs during a healthy menstrual cycle. However, in menstruators with PCOS, the ovaries may contain many small follicles that are unable to grow large enough to ovulate. Now, this can lead to an imbalance in your estrogen, your progesterone, and your LH, which is your luteinizing hormone, or your FSH, which is your follicle stimulating hormone levels. All right, guys? Your blood color can change during your cycle. So you might notice more brown blood. Now, brown blood is typically when you're starting your cycle and it's old blood that was left in your walls, or when you're coming to the end of your cycle and you have released all of the eggs that were going to come out for that actual menstruation phase. All right. But when there is little or light flow, blood can turn brown as it oxidizes before leaving the body. So again, if you're suffering from amenorrhea, if you're not having regulated menstrual cycles and you just have blood coming here and there, it might not come all the way down and just flow down. It might trickle down and get stuck to the walls. And by the time that it actually comes out your body, because of the oxidization, that it is now brown blood. Now, this can happen when you're ovulating, when the ovulation is being prevented by the PCOS and causing the actual uterine lining to build up but not shed properly. So pretty much what we just explained. And then you might also have that brown discharge that can cause in between your cycles. So even if you are having a small sign of cycle of a menstruation phase and you're having a couple of days here each month, then you might notice that in between your actual menstruation phase and while you're going through your other phases, your follicular, your luteal, things of that sort, that you will see that excess discharge that will be brown. You might also miss your periods. We talked about that earlier. So that's amenorrhea. Women or menstruators with PCOS may have fewer than 9 menstrual periods a year. Now, the typical average regulated menstrual cycle is 13 phases. You think, oh, it's 12 months in a year, but you go through 13 phases just like the moon phases. It's 13 phases. All right, guys. So you might have longer periods. So periods, they may last longer than usual. I told you earlier, I used to have 7 to 14 day cycles, meaning that was almost half of the month that I could have a cycle. And so that could be from PCOS. Heavy periods. So periods may be so heavy that they impact your daily routine. I talked about that to you before. I would literally have to go through 3 or 4 pads, 3 or 4 tampons in just one day. Not just 3 pads one day and then 3 tampons one day. I literally would do 3 or 4 tampons, then 3 or 4 pads, all within a 1 day period. And I would still bleed through the tampons, bleed through the pads, bleed through my clothes, wake up in the middle of the night to a puddle of blood in my bed. And that was just how things were. And it's something that I had got used to, which was sad. But it's something that I don't have to deal with anymore. Now, you might also have really painful periods. Severe pain is a common symptom of PCOS. So period cramping, inflammation, the sharpness in your abdomen. You might have lower back pain that you suffer from. All right, guys. And then we talked about the excess hair growth, and you might notice it more while you're on your cycle and while your hormones are doing their thing. So excess hair growth, acne, weight gain, obesity, we talked about those. And then lastly, infertility. You might still be having a period, but you're unable to produce or get pregnant. So those are signs of how your period can be impacted on PCOS. But then now that we talked about signs and symptoms and stats and what PCOS is, let's talk about how we can avoid or prevent PCOS. Now, you will, again, I want to give this disclaimer. When you look up PCOS, you will see that they say there is no such thing as a cure for it. But they said the same thing about HIV, AIDS, herpes, and things of that sort. And those things have been cured. And whether it's not publicly announced or the government doesn't want to put it out there, we still want to be mindful of that it is possible anything that is a virus in your body, you can get rid of. It just takes lifestyle changes. It takes you not getting too far in your head that, oh my God, this has happened to me and now I have to deal with this for the rest of my life. You need to do your own research. You need to read your own books. There are plenty of herbs, foods, and things that you could do to the body that can prevent these things. Whether people are telling you or not, there are also people out here that have written, published, research, proof, clients that they can talk about, people that can come and give reviews for them. These are real things, guys. All right. So let's get into preventing and elimination of PCOS. People with PCOS should avoid foods that can increase inflammation, insulin resistance, or hormonal balances. Now, we talked about earlier how important diet is for PCOS because of the obesity, the weight gain, things of that sort. But we have to be mindful, things that you are putting in your body. You can have endocrine disruptors that can cause your hormonal balances to be thrown off. All right. It can cause you to have the excess hair growth. It can cause you to have the inflammation, the heavy blood flow. So we just want to get into it. So refined carbohydrates and sugars we talked about before. Simple carbohydrates are not your friend. Complex carbohydrates are your friends, and those are the macronutrients that the body actually needs for energy, brain function, blood circulation, all of those good things. All right. So that's like white bread, pasta, sugary snacks, baked goods, things of that sort. Anything that has white flour in it, white sugar in it, any type of bleached or chemical products in it is something that you would want to avoid with having PCOS. Fried foods, French fries, potato chips, corn chips, fried chicken, fish, any of that. You don't need to have it if you have PCOS. It will cause the oily skin. It will cause the acne. It will cause the obesity. It will cause the inflammation and the pain that the body is experiencing each month, guys. All right. And it will throw off your hormonal balance. We want to avoid saturated fats, burgers, butter, margarine, all these vegetable oils that they tell you to cook with. You want to get rid of those things. All right. Red meat, roast beef, steaks, pork, beef, bacon, all of those things have steroids in them. They've been injected with GMOs, which is genetically modified objects. It has been injected with forever chemicals that not only lead to issues with PCOS, but it is research out there that you can read that these things lead to cancer, heart disease, and a lot of the leading illnesses that lead to death in the United States. We've talked about that in past podcasts. 60% of the leading causes of death in the United States are directly related to your diet. It is time for us to be mindful, guys, of what is going on and what we are putting in and on our bodies. All right, guys. So we want to avoid any processed meats as well. So that could be lunch meats, hot dogs, sausages, things of that sort, processed snacks. So anything that comes out of a box, a package, or a bag that you can get at the grocery store that's been sitting on the shelf. So cakes, cookies, candies, pies, sugary beverages. So anything that has added sugar or made from concentrate. That could be sodas, teas, sports drinks. It baffles me that Gatorade is promoted for athletes, yet it has so many ingredients that are unhealthy for athletes, including the red dye that turns the colors in the actual drink. Those are dyes that are illegal and banned in other countries because of the cancers, because of the heart disease, because of the uterine ailments that they cause. All right, guys, you want to get rid of dairy products, especially the ones with added hormones that are pretty much hard to kind of avoid in the United States because they inject the cows with these things. All right. So dairy from animals treated with artificial hormones are not good. So all the milk that you're drinking, the cheese that you're eating, eggs that you're consuming, things of that sort, that is not good for the body. Foods rich in soy and phytoestrogens. So we want to avoid those foods that may interfere with hormonal levels. And I know a lot of individuals that are on plant-based diet, Mediterranean diets, vegetarian, you eat a lot of tofu. You want to be mindful of those things because tofu has a lot of soy in it, and you want to avoid soy because added soy in the body adds unwanted estrogen, and it adds so much hindrance to the womb. It does not like the womb, and the womb does not like soy. So we have to be mindful of soy is not our friend. And when you look at a lot of ingredients, even if you're not like just solely tofu, seitan, things like that are tofu based, you still want to be able to look on the back of your boxes and read your nutritional labels because the ingredients will still have some form of soy in it to give it like a preservative or like shelf longevity to be able to be in the stores for an extended amount of time. Because have you ever just thought about like how you could pick up a box from the store and it will say, oh, it doesn't expire to 2026, and you're like, it's 2024, like how can it sit on the shelf for 2 years? We got to be mindful of those things. All right, guys. So avoiding alcohol is so important for PCOS. Too much alcohol could cause not only weight gain, but it affects the blood sugar levels in the body, and it adds unwanted chemicals that actually is an endocrine disruptor. It is a hormone disruptor. It has a negative effect on the body, whether you want to believe it or not. It might be all fun and games while you're drinking, but at the end of the day, the more alcohol you put into the body, the more it is going to negatively impact your womb. And lastly, we want to try to avoid caffeine. Too much coffee, too much soda, too much energy drinks. All of that can affect your cortisol levels and throw your hormonal balances off. And we don't want that. All right. So let's talk about holistic approaches to PCOS. So we talked about all these different things we need to avoid. So with that being said, an anti-inflammatory diet is important, focusing on fruits, vegetables, plant protein, nuts, seeds, healthy fats, eating from all the different food groups, all different colors, and in an abundance. And if you feel like you can't eat a colorful plate, throw it in a smoothie, throw it on a salad. You can make a colorful plate whether you believe it or not. And the reason why we need this is because with PCOS, we need the body to have a nice level of magnesium, fiber, and iron. And we know that iron and magnesium we lose during the menstrual cycle because it comes through our blood, along with like phosphorus and potassium and things of that sort. But we want to be mindful of eating foods that are high in those options, especially since iron is still the world's leading deficiency, which is still crazy to me, because how is it the world's leading deficiency and it's in all meat? It just doesn't make sense. But other holistic approaches, besides paying attention to what you're putting in and on your body, food-wise, we want to talk about herbs, herbal medicine. So whether you want to drink teas, whether you want to make tinctures, whether you want to grind everything down and put it into a capsule form. And of course, capsules are typically vegetarian or made from pig fat. So you want to be mindful of those things, or whale fat as well. So be mindful of those things, gelatin and all that. Those are not good for the body. But there are so many womb-friendly herbs we talked about. We talked about chastity, vitex. We talked about nettles. We talked about motherwort, mugwort, red raspberry leaves, hibiscus, calendula. All of those things are great for the body. In addition to chamomile, aloe vera, cinnamon, ginseng, ginger, fennel, lavender, licorice. All of these things are so great for the body. All right, guys. So incorporating those herbs. Exercising as much as you can, minimum of 5 days a week if possible. If you can do every day, that's great. But if you can't do physical exercise, even moving your body daily, a minimum of 30 minutes, walking around the house consistently, going up and down the stairs back to back, taking your dog for a walk, walking around the neighborhood, going to the mall to go for a walk. Making sure you're moving your body daily is so important. It also including strength training and mobility and flexibility exercises like Tai Chi, yoga, Pilates, things of that sort is very beneficial. Stress management, controlling your stress, improving your hormonal balance by limiting stress is extremely important. It will also improve your overall well-being, and it will also contribute to your mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical wellness components. All right, guys. So indulging in a hobby that you love, making sure that you're removing yourself from stressful situations that you don't have control of. You know, you want to be able to do what you do have control of. So doing things that makes you happy and doesn't bring stress and anxiety into the body. All right, guys. Lifestyle modifications, and this can include your sleep patterns. So making sure you're sleeping a minimum of 7 hours daily, and eliminating invaluable distractions, those people, places, and things, whether that's spouses, family, friends, co-workers, anybody that is an invaluable distraction, that is normally a negative influence, that says, oh, you can go ahead and eat that fried food. You're not supposed to be drinking alcohol, but you could just have one sip of drink. Ooh, you always exercising. Why do you always have to exercise? You never come out and drink with us for brunch anymore on Saturday mornings. These are things you want to pay attention to, and you want to block and set applicable boundaries with. And then also less screen time, not being on your phone as much, not looking at TV as much, on an iPad device, but spending that time to you, going to go take a bath soak, reading your favorite favorite book, journaling, doing something that can improve your wellness. And then lastly, we talked about endocrine disruptors, but we're going to go ahead and close out on that as a holistic approach to overcoming PCOS is avoiding endocrine disruptors by using all natural and organic products. Normally, endocrine disruptors adds like forever chemicals into your body, so formaldehyde, PFAs, things of that sort. You want to avoid those, all right? So that could be in your period products, the pads, the tampons, what you're using, if you like disc, if you like Diva cups, whatever you choose to use, be mindful of those. Period panties. We talk about your toiletries all the time, so your deodorant, your toothpaste, moisturizers, face products, shampoos, things of that sort, household products, your laundry detergent, your dish detergent, your cleaning products, your toilet paper, things that you use. You have to be mindful of those things because the chemicals in these products will disrupt your body and have an effect on illness being welcomed into it. All right, guys. So that is the holistic approaches to overcoming PCOS. We're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back with you. Welcome to KidCrampsAss.org. Now, feel free to subscribe and get 15% off. By doing so, you're subscribing to our newsletter and you'll receive the latest news, resources, and updates. We appreciate you for connecting with us, so we want to get you with 15% off on your first order. So go ahead and leave your first name, your last name, and your email address, and you'll have this 50% off coupon that you can use towards your first order. Now, back to the show. Welcome back from that commercial break, guys. We hope that you enjoyed it. So let's go ahead and get into some news and announcements. So again, we talked about how important September is. It is PCOS month. It is Sexual Health Education Awareness Month, Sexual Health Awareness Month. And it's also Yoga Awareness Month. Yay, yoga! So with that being said, this month we are launching our Pilates for Periods program. It is our fitness and mindfulness program. So we're going to be giving you yoga and Pilates workouts, breath work options, meditation options, and additional ways that you can have a more manageable menstrual cycle journey. We want you guys to have so many different resources and tools that you guys can use to truly improve your menstrual cycle journey. We want you to eliminate and prevent period pain, cramps, bloating, heavy blood flow, nausea, any type of uterine ailment you may be experiencing, whether that's endometriosis, PCOS, infertility, fibroids. We want to help you. So Pilates for Periods, we're going to be dropping new workout routines every Womb Wellness Wednesday beginning September 4th and moving forward. And we're so excited about it, guys. We also have our KCA magazine. We talked about that. We launched that for National Wellness Month in August. So we no longer have our blog. You can still go onto our website to look at the archive articles, but beginning August 1st, 2024, moving forward, we now have our magazine that is on the Medium website. All right, guys. So we're so excited about that. We're dropping articles every week. And so definitely get into that. And that is what we currently have going on. And we are so excited about it. So just to recap, we did talk about overcoming PCOS. What is PCOS? The stats, symptoms, how it affects the period, what can we do to get rid of it, and the holistic approaches to managing and preventing it. All right, guys. So excited about PCOS month. Now, we are still actively accepting listeners' mail, so feel free to comment to this episode. If you want a more personalized or intimate experience, you can actually email us at contact@kidcrampsass.org, which will be listed in the description of this episode. All right, guys. And everything we mentioned about the KCA magazine and Pilates for Periods, we'll give that information as well in the description of our episode, because we have pages on our websites for it. You'll be able to go to our Pilates for Periods YouTube channel to view our workouts. Again, we are so excited about everything that is coming up. So be sure to like this podcast, share it with somebody that you feel like it could resonate. We also want you to subscribe to our website. Not only will you get a 15% off coupon to use at our KCA store, but you will be able to keep up with the latest news, events, and resources that we have going on. and subscribing to our YouTube channel, you will also get additional educational content, and it will link you over to our Pilates for Periods page as well. All right, guys. So we have come to the end of this episode on this good old Menstruation Monday. Today we talked about season 2, episode 24, overcoming PCOS. And if there's not anything else, we want to send gratitude out to all of you for tuning in from all over the world. We are so excited to not just be servicing those in the United States, but we have made global markets, guys, and we're in more than one continent now, and we're so excited about it. All right, guys. So until next Menstruation Monday, we want to manifest a positive, productive, peaceful remainder of this Menstruation Monday, a menstrual cycle journey ahead, and we want to wish you that for the month of September as well. And if there's not anything else, we'll be seeing you next Menstruation Monday, guys. Peace.